Go. So what you want to do is pick the side of the mouth that still has the gills attached, because you don't want to mess up your pretty muscles on this side. So you're going to cut down the side here, and you're going to flip open the jaw. And a couple things you're going to notice. First, you're going to want to peel the skin off the dorsal jaw area. And you'll notice that this big plate of bone here that's formed from the chondrocranium is the hard palate, and this thing on the ventral side is the tongue. You're going to notice that there are two strings of bone that run at the tip of the mouth here, and they have serrated teeth on them. Those are the vomerine teeth. Okay, hard palate, tongue, vomerine teeth. So when blood comes from the heart of the mud puppy, it can run down to the abdominal cavity via this big pink line, which is the dorsal aorta, or it can run anterior to the head, also on a big pink line called the dorsal aorta. Okay, so the dorsal aorta, as it brings blood to the head, has several branches that come from it. Okay, so here's the dorsal aorta right here. The first branch, as we're moving anterior, is called the subclavian artery. The subclavian arteries go out to the arm, so if you are curious and want to dig them all the way out to the arm, you can find them. They're also going to be in your cat. So the dorsal aorta, after these subclavian arteries branch off, the dorsal aorta actually splits into two parts, and these are called the radices of the dorsal aorta, the radices of the aorta. Each radix, singular, has branches coming off of it. The most medial branch is called the vertebral artery, and the lateral branch is called the internal carotid artery. So you can see that on both sides, vertebral, internal carotid. Okay, so in the head region, dorsal aorta, subclavian arteries, radices of the dorsal aorta, vertebral artery, internal carotid artery. Okay, if we follow the dorsal aorta down into the abdomen of the salamander, see right there? The first thing you're going to notice is that there's this big branch coming off of it, more toward the top. And this branch is called the celiaco-mesenteric artery. The celiaco-mesenteric artery then divides or branches into one part here that goes straight to the stomach. That would be your gastric artery. And then if you follow this branch here, you can trace it all the way to the spleen, and that would be your splenic artery. Okay. Okay? So dorsal aorta, celiaco-mesenteric artery, gastric artery, splenic artery. If you follow the dorsal aorta down a little bit more, and then you come to your small intestine. If you stretch the small intestine out and you stretch open the mesentery proper, you can see that in the mesentery proper are several pink and yellow vessels. The pink vessels are the mesenteric arteries, and the yellow vessels are the mesenteric veins. The next thing you want to do is look for your reproductive organs. We have a male here. The male testis has pink and blue lines coming from it. The pink lines are the testicular arteries, and the blue lines are the testicular veins. Okay, and I don't know if I pointed this out last time. These squiggly lines here, those are the archinephric ducts. Okay, or vas deferens, whatever you want to say.
Okay, vas deferens. Took out that mesentery, this one?
It can be vas deferens. I think I told you like the first day it was vas. It doesn't matter. Whatever, however you learn it. Okay, so remember the yellow things are the mesenteric veins. The blue things here are the testicular veins.
Are there any females in this one?
Yeah, there are lots of females.
Okay,
so just poke around. Okay, so the other thing you want to know is that blood drains from this posterior portion of the salamander up through this big blue vein here. That's the post cava, posterior vena cava, inferior vena cava. Okay, and also blood that's draining from your digestive tract flows through these yellow vessels, and it says that the digestive tract is part of the hepatic portal system. So everything from the digestive tract is being shipped to the liver through this big vein right here, So if you flip over your liver and look at the ventral side of it, you'll see this big yellow vein, and that's the hepatic portal vein. Okay, so from your mesenteric veins to your hepatic portal vein, you also have blood draining from the posterior part of the salamander into the post cava. Everything goes into the liver, and from the liver, it's pumped into the post cava again. That's more anterior. And blood from the post cava drains into a sinus venosus, just like in the shark. Okay, so that's right here, and it always falls apart because it's really small and flimsy in the mud puppy. So blood from the body is being drained in the post cava into the sinus venosus. The heart in the mud puppy has 3 chambers. It has 2 atria and 1 ventricle. Okay, so if you flip the heart this way and look underneath, you'll see there's your right ventricle. If you flip it over this way, it's the left ventricle. Okay?
And that giant thing is the...
Or left atrium, sorry. Right atrium and left atrium. This big thing is the ventricle. Okay? So, sinus... Yes, it looks like a jelly bean. Gross. All right. So, post cava, sinus venosus, right atrium, ventricle. From the ventricle, it's pumped, the blood's pumped into the lungs and the gills where it's oxygenated. Travels back to the left atrium of the heart, into the ventricle again, and then up out of the ventricle through this vessel right here. This is the conus arteriosus, just like in the shark. But you can see that as we move anterior, the conus changes diameter, kind of bulbs out right here. That's called the bulbous arteriosus. Okay?
So does the oxygenated and oxygenated blood kind of mix together?
They kind of mix together, but it's not deleterious for the animal because it has 2 ways of oxygenating blood, and though they're in the same chamber, oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, they don't mix very much. So it's inefficient, but again, the salamander has 2 ways of oxygenating blood and all that stuff. So that's it. Yeah. Okay.
Can I get a copy of this video, please? That's on your
Okay, so you'll see these little flimsy things in here. There's one on each side. These are the lungs.
Those are the lungs?
Yep.
Wait, what?
These things.
It's a lung?
There's one on this side.
Really? What the heck? Okay. I missed that part, apparently.
This big organ here is the stomach. All right, and it runs down here to where it changes diameter. It kind of pinches to small diameter right there. That's where your pyloric sphincter is. Okay, if you look in the mesentery, that's very close to the small intestine. Right there, you'll find this like chunky organ. That's a pancreas. Okay, so it's right where the pyloric sphincter is. Likewise, the spleen is up here by the stomach. Okay. Okay, pyloric sphincter. Then you're going to notice that the small intestine is huge compared to that of the shark. And if I pick up